As humans, we have this underlying psychological program which makes us believe that harder is better, more complex is better, the harder we work, the better it is, the more advanced, the better it is, or even the more esoteric or the more otherworldly, the better it is. Which really causes us to, number one, be duped into believing a lot of really silly, illogical, outlandish things, and number two, really poorly allocate our time, energy, and attention, really just spin our wheels and really undermine our own efforts and intentions to create more transformation and expansion in our lives. So the underpinning thing there is that idea is really causing us to ignore the obvious, the simple, and the easy. Because for whatever reason, in our heads, we just don't want to see those things. And being present and paying attention to things is the things that no one wants to do. And you'll hear people say things, oh, he was talking about this, but it was obvious. I mean, everyone knows that. Why would you even point it out? And it's like, if everyone knows it, then why is everyone still doing it or not doing it or totally unaware of it? So here in this context, again, it's about paying attention to the simple, the easy, and the obvious. And for me, the more I've studied, the more I've done research, and the more I've really looked at things like Zen, things like Buddhism, things like Taoism, Chinese medicine, and Chinese shamanism, in reality, those things, at least at one time, were more holistic, more nature-based, and again, based on the easy, the simple, and the obvious. Now, whether or not they're like that today is a totally different story, different conversation. But for some reason, we have this program that causes us to ignore what's really right in front of us. And a few examples of that, just to illustrate it, because you might be thinking, who cares, dude? Like, I read the book and it said be present. Well, who cares? Why does it matter? Well, here's some reasons why that matters. Some things which are obvious, simple, and right in front of everyone, but really not that many people get it, and the vast majority of people just totally goes right over their head. One being, hi, here's the most toxic substance, or one of the most toxic substances on the planet in the periodic table of elements. Well, let's put it in your mouth. Now, if I walked up to you on the street and said that, you'd say, no thanks, you're crazy. But if your dentist says it to you, you're like, sure, I need it, right? I have to have it, put it in. Meaning, obviously, what I'm referring to is amalgam fillings. And I'm going to use examples from the health context here because those are really so easy and just right out there. Another thing would be, let's say it's World War I, World War II are over, and companies have a huge surplus of chemical weapons which they were using to kill other human beings. But now the war's over, what are we going to do? I got it. Let's spray it on the food supply. That makes sense. And I didn't just make that up. If you look at where most of those chemicals come from, same place, same companies, same people. Interesting thing. Or another example, let's take heavy metals and toxic elements, which are known to be poisonous and harmful when ingested in the human body, put them in skincare products, which, oh yeah, if you put it on your skin, you're definitely not eating it right. But yet, people just do that all the time, don't question it. Let's say another example would be selling a product which has, a 5,000 times markup and has an efficacy of only 5 to 15%, but selling that and promoting that as a great product and people accepting it and thinking it's a great thing. Billions and billions of people thinking that it's a great thing. I'm obviously not going to name what that is, but if you're clever and you can put two and two together, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And those are just a few examples. And this video isn't about me being up on a soapbox and pointing out, oh, this is bad and this is wrong and the world's this. Because that's not really what I'm into and that's not really what I'm about. And I don't really think you should be that way either. It's just pointing out a few examples of how people just ignore the obvious, ignore what's right in front of them, ignore what's extremely simple because of this earlier psychological program. And again, like I said, this is just one context. This is just a health wellness context because that's obvious and relatable, but it applies also to obviously religion, spirituality, psychology, physiology, relationships, diet, all across the board. But again, if we don't understand the root, if we don't address it, if we don't become conscious and aware of it, it's still going to control us and we're still going to be duped into just jumping from this thing to that thing or from this thing to that because it's more esoteric or it's more weird or it's more hard or it's going to make us seem more developed or more advanced or more disciplined or faithful or whatever the adjective might be, because as I said before, it's an underpinning program, so of course it's going to apply to all of these different things. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that's opened our eyes a little bit. It's just something that's been going through my head, because if you just sit back and watch and observe these things, you'll see them all around you all the time of just really silly, absurd things that if you just went up and said it to someone, they'd say, no, I'd never do that. But in reality, it's happening all the time. And again, this video isn't really about me being on a soapbox or complaining about the world or trying to put it down, because that's not my intention and that's not what I'm trying to do. So hopefully that's really clear to you, because if you look at almost 400 videos, they're all positive and uplifting and not just talking about problems. But I just wanted to point out those few examples there to again illustrate the importance of the concept and just illustrate a few examples of how it's clear, simple, and obvious, but people don't really see it, which again brings us back to the point of we really need to bring our attention back to the here and now, be present, pay attention to the simple, easy, and the obvious. And I've said that so many times in this video that hopefully by now it's simple and obvious. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.